So I just recently took off on my 2008 Ford Focus. It's a little 4-speed stick shift. I just took off my steering wheel because it's beat up. Kind of the backstory on why I took it off, besides being beat up, is my ignition switch was going bad, so I decided to replace the whole housing. I bought one from the store, put it in, worked for about 2 or 3 days, and it went bad already. So I had to take it out. But in the course of taking it out, I have to unplug a connector from right here on this little thing. It's called an airbag clock spring. When I took it out, the screwdriver slipped and demolished some of the pins on that. So in order to get at it, this thing sits right behind the steering wheel. It's sandwiched between the steering wheel and the ignition switch. This is kind of a headache for me to take off. And so I thought I'd make a little video on a couple of tips that I perhaps can convey to you to make your life easier if you have to take off this darn steering wheel. Okay, success in taking this steering wheel off is about giving yourself a little bit of room to work. So first thing you got to do is, you notice there's a cover on top and a cover underneath, and they're easy to get off. Now, obviously mine is already separated, but you get the idea. So the way you separate them is get yourself a screwdriver and just right where they meet, pry. And once you pry, this baby comes off. You does nothing more than doing it like that. And then this guy here, there's actually 3 bolts on this guy. So I'll show you the bolts. Here, here, and here. The 7mm socket head, it's a little tricky unhooking it from here underneath because of this guy right here. But I always want to give myself room. So this guy here, I took him off. 2 little Torx bolts, 20 Torx bolt. One here, one here. It's that simple, then the whole thing pulls out. Now I'm going to take this airbag off so I can show you underneath. Now one thing before you go, once you loosen your airbag, there is a couple wiring harnesses here, a clip here and a clip here. You just squeeze like with a small pliers, off it comes. And there's another little tab connector here. You got to take that out before you can yank this thing out. And also when you're taking off the steering wheel, don't forget to take off the Phillips screw on your ground wire, which is right here. This guy right here. What holds the airbag onto the steering wheel are these 3 clips, here, and here. And they're not hard. I mean, you don't have to use a lot of force, in other words. Boom, boom, boom. Where the problem lies is you can't do it from the front because the airbag is in the way. You have to do it from the back. You ain't got a lot of room. So what you have to do is you end up rotating this guy. So when you rotate it, just rotate it to where you feel you have the most room. So I tend to rotate it like that. And then I can see this guy right there, right? Some people like to do it at the top. And so you have the room like that, or rotate it over on the far side, this way. Now we got the back side, right? You notice there's a slot here and a hole here, and here. Let's just focus on this one. Where I struggled was getting enough room because you only got like this much space back there, and you're working in a small area that's hard to see, and you're not sure, and then your wheel might be tipped upside down. So that's another thing to consider, is these springs go in like that. But when you're upside down, because you rotate your wheel, you have to think, okay, which way does it go? Well, it's got to go that way, type of thing. So just be aware, taking into account the position of the wheel. If it's upside down, that's different than being this way or this way. First of all, I've got the wheel straight. And that's because you want to have the wheel, you want to make sure it's easy for when you put your steering wheel back on. You want everything lined up so you're not putting it on funny. All the YouTube videos, all the pros say, take some paint marker and make markings so you know how this nut lines up with this and this. Like I said, the problem is this thing was frozen on. So I tried a couple different things. I took a hammer and tried to gently hit the sides here. Boom, boom. Didn't come off. I took a liquid wrench, sprayed it in there, let it sit for a while. It didn't work. I finally got a hold of a big jaw puller with the arms on it. Put an arm here, arm here, arm here, and then tried to pull it. Thought, great, this is gonna work. All it really did was bend this, because this is kind of weaker here and here. It just kind of bent this a little bit. Like, doggone it. So here's where the issue is on this car. Normally there's two holes here. One here, let's say, with threads in it. So you get your steering wheel puller, and then you hook in the main bolt right here. Then you screw in the two side bolts here, and then you tighten it, and the whole thing comes off. Right, nice and easy. Except, what's the problem? Well, let me tell you, there is no hole here, right? So that was a challenge for me. But let's get to this nut first. This nut is just a 24 millimeter nut. It comes off really easy. I used a little bit of a breaker bar. All right, so here's my little 24 millimeter socket. Stick it on there. Hold the steering wheel with your left hand. Unscrew with your right. It'll come right off. It's not on real tight. Boom, done. Now, given that we can't use a regular steering wheel puller kit because it doesn't have the two little screw holes to screw the side bolts into, most people, when you look online, say, well, once you get this off, and mechanics too, I've talked to Ford mechanics, just wiggle it, it'll come right off. That was not the case for me. I could not wiggle it. It didn't wiggle. It wouldn't come off. So then I tried the old mechanics trick where you put a pipe right here on the nut. Then you take a big hammer and pound the daylights out of the end of it. So imagine there's the pipe there, and I'm going bam, 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 bam on that into the pipe. At the same time, holding the steering wheel with my knees, putting pressure on it. Theoretically, that will loosen things and it will work. But in my case, nada, nothing. So what to do, what to do? If you notice, it says pull right here, and it also says pull there. Now, I don't know if this slot in this area here were made for a gear puller, but that's what I did. So, a couple problems I had with this gear puller, mainly the end of it. Now, I tried to stick it in like that, but it's too wide. So it doesn't really go into the shaft. It just pushes against the steering wheel itself. There's always worry about damaging threads, so you want to put the bolt in and then unscrew it a little bit so it's still threaded in. So there's a little space between the nut and the steering wheel. You know, I had to play with this a couple times. It didn't come off the first time. It would tilt on me and do this and do that, and because of stupid point. So if you get one with a flat head on it, or an adapter so it's a flat head on a flat head, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. So anyways, then this bad boy pops off. Okay, so that's my process for getting this darn thing off. Find yourself forcing that screwdriver, putting a lot of force, that's way too much. These are very light loaded springs. So, and off the sucker comes, and then you go, hallelujah.